Welcome to the holiday edition of the Real Estate Investing with Coach Carson podcast. As always, I'm your host, Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach. And this is an informal end of the year edition of the podcast where normally I bring you real estate investing tips. I bring you strategies. I analyze deals. I interview people who give you insights. Today's going to be a little different. It's still going to be hopefully useful, but it's going to be going behind the scenes. And I'm going to look back at 2023. I'm going to share some personal stories on what I've been doing this year. Also share some real estate insights about my portfolio, and then talk a little bit about Coach Carson, what's going on behind the scenes if you're interested. And then the second half of the episode, I'm going to look forward to 2024, talk about the same thing, what kind of plans I have, and then also what my real estate investing expectations are and what I'm looking to do as an investor, and then a little bit of a sneak peek on what you can expect from Coach Carson in 2024. Before we get into my own story, what's going on with me, I first of all have to say thank you. If you're listening to this, if you're watching it on YouTube, 2023 has been an amazing year for me. It's been a privilege to bring you over 50 podcast episodes. I think we had over 47 videos that we published at YouTube. And just to show you just a little bit of the stats on what's going on with YouTube and the podcast, we had over 1.5 million views from you this year on YouTube. 23,000 of you subscribed to the YouTube channel. That put us over 80,000 subscribers in the Coach Carson YouTube channel. We've had over 620,000 podcast downloads this year. That puts us over 2 million downloads for the lifetime of the podcast. But really more than the stats is that every single week I get comments from you on YouTube saying something's been helpful to you, or this sparked an idea, or you've used this to improve your life. And I get emails from you. By the way, you can always email me at podcast@coachcarson.com to let me know how things are going. Love to hear from you, or leave a comment in the YouTube video right now. Those comments, those interactions with you, the opportunity to teach you. I've taught a lot of courses this year, a lot of you in coaching. All of that means a whole lot to me. It makes me happy because I get to be and do my dream job. This is a lifestyle business for me. I have achieved financial independence with rental properties, and I have this big space of time that I could spend doing anything. And outside of family life and getting to travel and do some things that I really love to do with my family, this is my calling, and you give me that opportunity. So a long story short, I'm really grateful, and I'm the luckiest YouTuber podcast in the world to be able to interact with all of you and help you, and I'm not slowing down any. There's going to be a lot more in 2024, as you're going to see, and I want to give you some details on that, both a review of this last year, but also a looking forward to next year. Okay, so let's look back at 2023, and as you know, this podcast, this YouTube channel, the mantra, the saying is, do what matters. And 2023 for me personally was one of those years where highlight reel in terms of doing what matters. I began this year, we were still living in Spain. Right now, as you watch me here, I'm in my basement recording studio in Clemson, South Carolina. So we've moved back to the United States in August of this year, July of this year. But we began the year in Granada, Spain, where our family spent 12 months. And our kids were going to school there, participating, doing all the things that they normally do here in the U.S., they got to do there. So just an amazing experience. I personally got to improve my Spanish. So puedo hablar mejor ahora. So I got to improve my Spanish by taking classes every week, and that was my main project for most of the time I was in Granada, Spain. I would go to lessons on every Monday and Friday, personal one-on-one lessons. But most of all, the most fun for me was interacting with people and making friends and using my Spanish that way. So I'm a sports person. Every Thursday evening, I had a group of guys who'd been playing a pickup soccer game for over 25, 30 years, I believe it was. And just amazing people. I felt super fortunate that they let me kind of into their fold as a foreigner, as someone living there. But they called it seeking beers, buscando cervezas. And so every Thursday night at 9 o'clock, we'd play soccer, which I used to play soccer as a kid, but it's been a while. And in Spain, they love soccer. They're good at it. Everybody knows how to kick the ball. I was just a big American guy who would run around and try not to hurt people. But it was a lot of fun. And then after an hour of playing, we'd go have some beers and conversation and just getting to know each other and hanging out and having fun at a local pub or a local restaurant. So that was my Thursday evening. And I had another group that I got to know. On Fridays, I would play pickup basketball, which is my favorite thing to do. And so I got to interact with these two different groups of people, and also a lot of expats who were living there and their families. So just deep connections. That is something I love about the slow style of travel that our family has really picked up and enjoys doing. You go somewhere, and yes, we did some touristy things. Like we traveled during the year to Germany. We went to Greece, which was a big highlight reel for us. My kids, that was the first place they went on their list to go to outside of Spain, was visiting Athens, going to some of the ruins. Went to the Temple of Delphi, which is Apollo's old temple up in the mountains outside of Athens. We also visited Paris and London and some other places inside of Europe. But just being there and having your day-to-day life in a new place, getting to listen to different sounds, see different sights, understand the pace of life in a different place, that was really cool. And so just getting to do that, so many stories I could tell you, but I can remember one particular story. Our next door neighbor, who I also played soccer with, invited us over for an afternoon. And there's always a reason to have a party in Spain and enjoy each other and have kind of friends hanging out. But this particular afternoon, they had some food, they had some friends, and this is like well into the year when I was wanting to kind of test my Spanish to see, I wanted to see how good I really was at it. And we spent the entire day over there hanging out with them, speaking Spanish the whole time, and I could interact. I had conversations, talking about normal things. And it was a moment I realized the Spanish practice has paid off. This is really good, and I've evolved a lot in my Spanish skills. So that was my experience in Spain. A lot of other fun stuff that happened there. I'm a big fan of mini retirements, of taking these breaks as you're climbing. I know if you're in the kind of the grind of your job and just saving money, there's a season for everything. So there's a growth phase, a starter phase. I'm well into like the ender phase of my financial journey, or the harvesting phase. We're living off the income. But I really believe in interspersing these little mini retirements throughout your career. So I did it in 2009 when I wasn't financially independent, went for 4 months and traveled abroad just by saving money. Instead of buying a new car, we just took 4 months off and traveled before we had kids. We've done several of these trips. And if you like to travel, I definitely recommend that. But even if you don't want to go international, RV trips or camping trips, or just staying at home and doing some hobby, doing some project, learning something new. This is why we invest in real estate. These things that matter to us are the ultimate goal. And my philosophy that I've adopted from other people too is to not do that when you retire. Intersperse those things that matter to you throughout your life. So you all know that's the philosophy of the podcast here, of my platform. And I hope you can integrate that with your own real estate investing, with your own financial independence. It's been a rich, amazing experience. It was also interesting assimilating back to the United States. We've done this big, long trip one time before where we moved to Ecuador, and 17 months later came back to the United States. Our kids were 3 and 5 when we did that. And I'll be honest with you, it was a really difficult emotional transition coming back. We had an amazing trip there too, but coming back, both my wife and I had some kind of mild depression, maybe medium to mild depression, just on the transition coming back. And there was little things that for me, I'm really big. I enjoyed the urban lifestyle, walking all the time. If you've listened to my story, I work in my local community trying to improve walkability and making it so everybody can walk to their park or walk to the downtown. And I just feel like it's a better social fabric for a community, better economic fabric, and also just health, public health as well. So that's kind of my little thing. And so coming back and having to drive everywhere, and just a different lifestyle was hard. This time was actually a little easier. We were prepared for it a little bit more. We kind of transitioned back. We went to a family member's house for a little while and got to go almost like a vacation to a lake house. And so just kind of eased our way a little bit for the end of July, but then we jumped right back into school. And I think the biggest deal is our kids were ready to come back and go to school. So they jumped right into it. Our school system starts in August, and we've been running ever since. So it's kind of a normal fall life, American life for the fall, and it's been great. We've enjoyed it. We're big into outdoors. So in the Clemson part of South Carolina has lots of trails. My wife and I like to do a little bit of mild mountain biking. We're not intense with that, but we have a lot of great trails near us. So we'll drop the kids off at school sometimes and go mountain bike or hike and just get outdoors and enjoy the beautiful forest and scenery around here in Clemson, South Carolina. So that's a little bit about what my personal life has been like this year. A couple of highlights for me that you might find interesting, kind of in that do what matters category. I mentioned that I volunteer a lot and we have a nonprofit called the Friends of the Green Crescent that a group of friends and I started back in 2015. But even before that, in 2014, we kind of captured this idea from a university students of building a trail network in the Clemson, South Carolina area. And I've been to other towns where they had this, and I mentioned that I really like walkability. And I just said, this is an idea that has got to happen. And I got my entrepreneur mode on and sort of galvanized and organized, and it's been a slow process, but we started in 2015 with our nonprofit, and we finally, this year, 2023, almost a decade later, have finally had a first segment of official Green Crescent Trail on the ground. So all the way from the seed of an idea, maps, meetings, to raising money. It's been multiple millions of dollars, a lot of it from the local community, but also from the state of South Carolina. We've gotten some federal grants, and there's a reality. There's this thing on the ground, a 10-foot wide path connecting several parks in my community, connecting to the university, to the South Carolina Botanical Gardens. And so this is the first segment. It was really hard to get to this point, but now we have a lot of momentum. And so this is, a specific example. You may or may not be interested in this kind of thing, but when you have your free time, this has been one of the joys of my financial independence life, is being able to spend hours and hours on this project, not expecting or wanting any money. In fact, I've invested and donated a lot of money to this project, but having the payoff, because this is an entrepreneurial type project. There are projects in your hometown, in your community, that would make your community better, but there's no kind of fire plug entrepreneur to make these things happen. And that's the role I played with this. I wasn't the only team member. There's a lot of other people involved as well, but I was the fire plug who kind of kept this thing going when it was really tough, and it's hard to see the vision for what was going to happen. And so really proud of our team and that happening. If you ever come to Clemson, South Carolina, look up the Green Crescent Trail, and my hope is over the next 10 to 20 years, it'll be a 30-mile network that everybody in town can get. Students can go back and forth to the university on a bike or walking, that community members can get outside and move around, the downtown businesses and the small businesses will benefit. It's like pouring Miracle Grow in a downtown when you have people walking and moving around. So we have several little downtowns, Clemson, Pendleton, and Central, which we hope to connect all of those towns to the forest outside of town. So it's a really cool project. It's still a lot of vision, but it's on the way. There's momentum, so pretty cool. So that's kind of our personal travel, the Green Crescent Trail. I've also personally, in 2023, been working on improving some health and fitness, just getting back into some habits that I used to do a lot. You see my football helmets in the background. I used to train with weights a lot throughout my life, 6th grade all the way to when I was 23 years old. I was training, and even training for the NFL after I got done with college. And then I just kind of gave up and stopped doing that. I'd done it so much. And I've done body weight workouts and a lot of walking and active and basketball. But this year I've gotten back into lifting weights 3 times a week. And that's been kind of a fun habit for me, paying attention to nutrition. Kind of like, when you count your dollars when you're figuring out how much money you have coming in and out and budgeting. I've just been playing around with that with nutrition and got a coach. I hired a coach for nutrition and exercise. So shout out to Justin over at Fit Rich Life. And Justin's been amazing and really has been helpful for me. And I've seen a lot of energy, some good fitness, my increased strength, lost a little bit of weight. So that's what I'm working on personally, to have energy to bring more episodes and teach more and be a better dad and better community member. So that's kind of the foundation. If you watch one of my earlier episodes this year, my favorite episode that I've ever done with Brian Johnson at Arate, or Heroic Corporation, wrote a book called Arate, basically saying you as an investor, your number one asset is your consciousness, is your energy. And so taking care of yourself, personal development, is an investment. It has huge returns. And so I'm taking that seriously and working on sleep, working on exercise, working on nutrition, not being perfect with any of them, but tracking those habits, just like you would if you want to save money. You would track how much money's coming in and out and how much money you're investing and what your net worth is growing. Well, if it matters to you to be healthy, then track how many hours you're spending sleeping. Track how much your nutrition, what kind of foods, how much food you're eating. Track your amount of workouts, and it can be kind of a fun thing. It doesn't have to be cumbersome. Find little ways to do it. That's something I'm working on and trying to improve on as well. Final thing of 2023, my real estate investing. You might be wondering kind of what's going on with behind the scenes with me with that. Just to give you kind of big picture view, I mentioned earlier, you have this journey as a rental investor. I started investing in 2003 and got into the wealth building phase. And if you read my book, The Small and Mighty, real estate investor, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. I talk about those journeys of going from starter to wealth builder to ender or harvester. Well, my life and my real estate now is in the ender phase, the harvester phase, which to me means I spend a much smaller amount of time on my real estate, a couple hours per week, but it's the number one way that I generate income. So that is the kind of backdrop of what my real estate business looks like. But I have a business partner, a 50-50 business partner, and we own approximately 100 units, 99 units in Clemson. And some of those are multi-unit properties, some are single family houses. It's kind of a split. Some of those are student rentals. Some of those are just rental to local families. But the thing that was a big deal for us in 2022 and 2023, which I've never talked about on the podcast up until now, is that we had a big deal. We had a big buyer who was looking at one of our properties. So we have a collection of properties that people were just kind of cold calling us to try to buy. And we usually just ignore those. But this particular person we talked to, and they made us an offer. They were representing a big firm who wanted to develop this property. So we have, what's kind of interesting when you own rental properties, the zoning underneath it, in certain zoning, the more dense the zoning, meaning you can build more units, makes a property more valuable, particularly in locations that are closer to kind of the centers of town. So we're not right in the center of Clemson with this property, but on the bus line, about 1.5 miles from the downtown and the university. And it was just an attractive place. There's a lot of demand for building apartments in Clemson, and somebody made us an offer we couldn't refuse, that we were just surprised that if we sold about 50 units out of our 100, we could get a price that was 3-4 times what we thought it was worth. And so in the many millions of dollars, we accepted the offer, went through a whole process of due diligence that lasted a long time, and long story short, the whole deal fell through. We had walked away with some earnest money deposits and some money, but probably a combination of the market changing. So we kind of rode out the change in interest rates and the change in the financing market in the commercial world, I think is ultimately what killed it. There's also some other just things that the particular buyer had to deal with that they couldn't handle. So the good for us out of this whole learning experience is reinforcing my knowledge about the zoning of a property and the value of the dirt itself. And so this is a great insight I'll do some episodes on in the future of how to evaluate that and how to understand what the good zoning is in your town, and looking at the zoning map and understand densities and development potential. So just learning a lot about that, but also understanding our property is worth more for the future. So we're happy with it. We like our rentals. They're kind of fit in our buy box, exactly what we want. So we're not in a hurry to do anything else, but it puts us in a good position going forward. So that was kind of occupied my time even while I was in Spain, thinking about that deal and working on it. But in addition to that, because we're in that harvesting phase, we're not trying to acquire a ton of properties at the moment, but we still acquire here and there. And our theme is investing with other people. So we have a couple of just people that we trust and know well that we've started investing some, either as a hard money lender, or in this case, we bought an 8-unit building in Kalispell, Montana, which I did an episode about with Joe and his wife, Katie. And this is a little boutique hotel. It's like a multifamily property, really beautiful 2-story property, kind of convenient to Glacier National Park, convenient to the ski slopes there, and right in the downtown area near the restaurants and bars and kind of breweries and things like that. And so that's been a pretty cool deal where we were the money, we were the passive partner, they're the active partner. They found the deal. And so we invested with them, and we made some hard money loans to some other people this year, and we bought a single family house that was right next to another house we had in Clemson. So that's it. One big acquisition, the 8-unit, one single family house in a really strategic location, and just making some loans. That's a good year for us where we are, keeping the time to a minimum, but it's still reinvesting some excess capital. So that's the kind of acquisitions side of our real estate business. And then really my big focus for my time has been systems and processes, and trying to get people in business call them KPIs, key performance indicators, taking the bookkeeping, the numbers, and putting it into basically a dashboard or a chart, and understanding what's going on with your business. I take a lot of pride in bookkeeping. We do a really good job with our books, but what we don't do a good job of is we're behind. We're slow in getting that done. Part of that is because my business partner and I still do a lot of that ourselves. We used to have a bookkeeper, and she retired, and so we just kind of took it on ourselves a few years ago when that happened. 2024, looking forward, we're going to be hiring a bookkeeper, getting some help, because the time I want to spend in my real estate business is looking at those numbers, understanding what's going on, being the asset manager. Maybe this property needs to sell. Maybe we want to trade and get another property. It's kind of like playing chess, moving things around. And when you have a good dashboard and you understand the metrics of your properties, both historically and what's happening right now, you can identify problems, have discussions with your property managers. You can know when to sell a property, when to keep it. And so that's a big improvement we're going to keep on working on, both the kind of the KPI bookkeeping side of things and also just tracking maintenance on our properties. And we've developed a maintenance checklist and a kind of a routine on when we have maintenance people go out to properties to do certain things. So all that's kind of like just the behind the scenes work of real estate, but it's been a big focus for us. So all of that so far has been my personal journey in 2023, my real estate investing business behind the scenes, but I haven't talked about anything with Coach Carson and what I was doing there. And a big part of my time spent while I was in Spain, as you might know, was writing the book, The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor. And so in 2023, that was published back in July, published on Bigger Pockets website, and then August, published on Amazon. And that was a fun journey. It was fun to write the book. If you ask most authors, they have to have that book, something itching in their head. And for me, really the motivation, I've been teaching real estate investing through a blog, through this podcast, through YouTube for years. I wrote another book back in 2018 called Retire Early with Real Estate. But the itch for me was that first book. I'm very proud of it. It was a map essentially showing if you want to use real estate to not have to work a job anymore, here's how you do that. Here's the journey. Here's the mechanics of that. Here's what you need to think about. But the thing I didn't like about the book that I still had an itch to do was to have a real estate tactics book. So that book didn't go into how do you buy the properties, how do you finance them, how do you actually sell a property, when should you sell, when should you pay off debt. So a lot of that tactical stuff I wanted to get into. And so this Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor book is the package. It still had a lot of the philosophy, as you know, why you should stay small, why you don't have to go big to do what matters, and to have this time to enjoy your life and to ultimately accomplish your goals. You can stay small and do that. So I gave a blueprint for that. But then the meat of that book is tactical. And I love that. I love the practical side of things. And so that, for me, 2023 as a teacher was really about the word body of work, of putting the things I've learned over the last 21 years into a book, The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor, and into a course called 30 Days to a Better Rental Investor. And that course we published in March of this year and had hundreds of people take the course. People are still taking it now. It's a do-it-yourself kind of course where you follow along day by day over 30 days. And it's for beginners, but it's also for intermediate investors who want to improve the acquisition side, the financing, and the rental organization and operations of their business. Very practical, very tactical. So I'm really proud that at the end of this year, the book, the course are there. And the transition I've made now and I'm still making is those things are out there. And I'm going to still have the podcast and YouTube. I'm going to be teaching and telling stories and giving case studies. But I'm really energized and enjoying getting back and taking that body of work and those tactics and helping people implement it. That's what the end of 2023 and going into 2024 has been all about for me. And coaching this is called Coach Carson, this platform. And I like coaching you from a distance through these episodes, but I'm getting to coach people personally. And I'm doing that through a new program that I'm really proud of called Rental Property Mastery. As I'm recording this in the early of December, we already have 100 members in there. And we're eventually going to have 300 members. That's going to be the cap on it. I'm patient on how long that takes. It might be the end of 2024. It might take a little bit longer. But the point, this is going to be a community of people who are trying to achieve financial independence. They have small and mighty investing as their philosophy, but then we get tactical on solving the problems that most of us as real estate investors have. So if you're brand new, that problem is, what strategy do I need to have? How do I build a buy box that makes sense for me? How do I get over those fears I have as a new investor and do my first deal? That practical mission, that practical goal. And then we're also serving a lot of people who I call the wealth builders. So they've already got properties, but they've made some progress, but now they're stuck. I need to get a new type of financing. I need to start using private money. I need to get partners. I need to find creative financing, seller financing. I need to figure out how to buy properties off the market. And so there's a whole new set of skills when you start growing and scaling your business a little bit to actually, finish the race of achieving financial independence. And so we're focusing on that, and we're doing it through coaching. Of course, this is the place where I'm doing coaching regularly on a monthly basis. I do a group coaching. I'm also doing one-on-one calls, but then we're also doing these really cool things called skill clinics. These are like workshops where we're taking all the skills that rental investors are trying to improve on, like lead generation, negotiations, raising private capital, you name it. I've got a list of 20 skills, and we're teaching workshops where during a 2 to 4 week period, we don't just learn about it, you actually do it. So by the end of the 2 to 4 weeks, you're generating leads. By the end of the 2 to 4 weeks, you're making offers, you're negotiating. By the end of the 2 to 4 weeks, you are asking private lenders if they'll loan you money, and I'm helping you find them. So everything there is practical and is supporting you along the way. So you can tell I'm proud about this, but I'm having fun with it, and the people in the community are getting results, and it's a long-term relationship. So I've been teaching courses for years, but one of my gripes about just doing courses is that you don't get to participate with people over the life cycle of the deal or of their journey. And so I want to go long. I want to kind of bet the Coach Carson business. So this is a business now. It started off as a hobby for me, but over the last couple of years, this has become, I've had to pay people to edit videos. I've had to pay people to host my email. And this has evolved. I finally kind of got in my head that this is a business, and I want to hire a team to help me do this. And so the business is going long on supporting people and getting results as rental investors, as small, mighty investors. And so that's what this membership is really the core product and offer of Coach Carson going forward. And you can go to I'll have a link in the podcast and YouTube description if you want to check it out. But this is the place to get coaching from me, to interact, to get results. Some people still do courses, and that's enough. If you want a kind of DIY type person, you just need some knowledge or just want to listen to a podcast and you can go apply it, that's wonderful too. Like everybody has a different part of their journey. I personally am somebody who loves coaches. I played sports. I've gotten business coaches. As I mentioned earlier, I have a health coach. I'm a coach person. I get coaching. I like to give coaching. And so I believe in having somebody help you apply the lessons that you learn in your head. And so that's what Rental Property Mastery is all about. You can check it out. But the reason I'm telling you all that is that was really what 2023 is about. And going into 2024, that's what from the behind the scenes of Coach Carson, that's what it's going to be about as well. I'm still going to be publishing YouTube videos just as we always do. I'm going to have some really cool ideas on some new concepts, particularly going back to the whiteboard and doing some deal analysis. I've got a couple ideas for new types of episodes that I've done in the past but haven't done lately. An Ask Coach episode. I've been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching behind the scenes with people, but I'd like to do some public coaching on YouTube and in the podcast where for a 20 to 30 minute episode, somebody comes to me with their particular problem that they have as a rental investor, and I listen, I help them diagnose it, I talk it through with them, and we leave that coaching call, just like I always do, with some actions. Like, here's the focus. What's the next step? How can you solve this? And so I like to start an Ask Coach series on the YouTube channel and podcast. Again, I've done it in the past, but this will be a little bit different format. So if you like that, let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. Send me an email to podcast@coachcarson.com. I'm also going to do some more deal analysis videos where I'm running the numbers, helping you figure out in a high interest rate climate, how do you make deals work? What kind of financing do you need? What do the numbers look like? That's often the toughest puzzle to solve these days. And I've got some ideas that I think will help you out with that. Then I want to make a couple comments about real estate, and we'll wrap up this episode. Real estate investing is always changing. I'm really interested in 2024 what things are going to look like. It's been the end of 2023 has been a struggle for a lot of real estate investors. And the core concept that's been the struggle, interest rates have been up in the 7 to 8% range. And when you look at a property, if you just paid cash for a property, a lot of properties only produce a 4 to 6% return. That's called a cap rate or an unleveraged yield. And basically the cost of money is more than what the return on a property is. That's the fundamental challenge that's going on with real estate investing. That's why properties don't cash flow as easily. You could put a huge down payment and still make it cash flow, but then your return on investment would go down. So how do you still make money in real estate? How do you find properties that will still serve you over the long run? That's the question of the day. And my answer in short has been focus on the fundamentals. still buy properties in the best locations, buy properties that are going to have tailwinds, that there's demographic tailwinds. People are moving into a town that's going to grow over time, and then play the long game. And so the long game is if you can still lock in interest rates at 7% or 7.5% and play the game. One possibility is that interest rates keep going up. I don't think that's probably not my likely scenario, but they could keep going up over time, or they could. And then in that case, if you've locked it in and you've bought a property now, you've locked in that lower interest rate. That could be a benefit. The other benefit could be is interest rates go back down. So if you buy a property today and interest rates go from 7 or 8% down to 4 or 5% at some point, even for a short period of time, you can refinance the property and lock that in over time. But now everybody else is going to be jumping back into the market. Prices tend to go up during those lower interest rate periods. And so you will be ahead of the game as well. The point is, I'm a time in the market type investor, not trying to time the market. This is what Warren Buffett does. This is what long-term investors do. And as a real estate investor, I think 2024 is going to be about that. It's going to be about sharpening your saw as a deal finder, finding off-market deals. It's about getting creative strategies to get the money. That might mean private money. That might mean seller financing, lease options, partnering with other people who have enough down payment to buy these deals. You're going to have to get scrappy and creative. That's what I did in 2008, 9, and 10 and benefited a lot during that different economic climate. This is not the same one, but this is similar in that it's challenging for investors, and you got to figure out a way to make it work. So all of that is kind of my big picture vision for 2024 as a real estate investor. I'm going to be helping people, coaching people to buy properties. I'm still going to be looking, and like I did last year, we'll buy a couple properties this year, invest with other people. We'll probably make a couple hard money loans. We'll improve our operations and our finances. But that's the name of the game for you as well, is focusing on the fundamentals, the acquisitions, the financing, the operations. Those things, just like blocking and tackling in football or sports, those are the fundamentals of real estate. And if you focus on those skills, then you can adapt to the market. You can change with it. There are still deals happening. People are still making it happen in 2023 already, and the same thing will happen in 2024. And I'm just excited to see which investors take advantage of that. Hopefully you're going to be some of those people. I'm going to be here to help you out and provide content, provide coaching to help you make that happen for yourself. I just look forward to hearing your stories and how things go for you in 2024. Let me know in the comments below how 2023 has been for you, what the highlights have been, if you've had any challenges or struggles that I can help you out with in 2024. I'd always love to hear from you. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send an email to podcast@coachcarson.com. I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your holiday season, a happy new year, and I'll see you again in 2024. If you like the show, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my free email newsletter at coachcarson.com/REI Toolkit. In addition to weekly updates, articles, and behind-the-scenes tips from me, my email newsletter subscribers get my real estate investing toolkit, which includes a property closing checklist that I actually use when I buy properties, a real estate deal worksheet, a tenant screening criteria checklist, and other spreadsheets and goodies that will help you on your journey to financial independence using real estate. You can get it all for free at coachcarson.com/REI Toolkit. I also want to take this time to thank some people behind the scenes who make this podcast possible each and every week. This includes my podcast editor extraordinaire, Michael Wynn, my amazing virtual assistant, Megan Thompson, my wife, Carrie, who helps me behind the scenes and is my partner here at Coach Carson. And of course, thank you to all of you, the listeners of this show who make everything possible. This show exists for you. It exists because of you. And I really appreciate you being here for another episode. Everything I've shared with you in this episode has been for general education purposes. I have not considered your specific situation or risks. Before buying your own investments, be sure to consult a financial, real estate, and/or a legal professional. Until next time, I'm Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach, and this is a show all about helping you get out of the financial grind so you can do more of what matters. See you next time.